Good morning. Foppe and I are here today to have a conversation about the lessons he's learned in life, as well as the legacy he is building in Malta. He will share his stories, as well as the steps that he has gone through in defining, developing, and executing his life legacy. So, without further ado, Foppe is a board member of the United People's Foundation, and he is internationally rolling out a Eura system for and on behalf of the people. So without further ado, welcome, Mr. Seekles.
Thank you, and please call me Foppe.
Okay, will do. So we had chatted previous to this Zoom conversation about your professional background, as well as the story of your life. And I thought that maybe you would also speak into that for a moment, just to let people who are watching know who you are as a new face.
Thank you. Actually, I was starting up in the government in the Netherlands and ended up first as in civil engineering and later doing special projects, special assignments for Netherlands and later on European level. In that time, I learned a lot about many branches. One of it was the setting up of Green Investment Fund. And I was appointed in the National Banking Forum under the chairman of the Dutch Investment Bank as an advisor for setting up the Green Investment Fund. Actually, that is one of the things I learned. I always worked with people and for people, not for myself. I always worked for politicians, with politicians, but then I worked especially for the people. The advantage of the people. So what I learned also during my international work in my own company later on, I'm now giving back to the people, and I'm giving my network back to the people to make their future possible after a disastrous number of years that we call COVID-19.
Sure. And your background includes understanding about civil engineering and how to build bridges and roads. And yep. Yes, it's a deep well of knowledge and experience. And also, I just wanted to highlight that your last name means traveler.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. And
it's really funny.
Yes. And is there any connection to the Dutch East India Company or none at all? Or is it just a Frisian name?
It's a Frisian name, and the family I'm born in was doing trade with Scandinavia, bringing peat to Scandinavia and bringing wood to Friesland, to Holland. And well, that was the basis, of course. So we have a connection that goes ages back to the northern part of Europe.
Okay, good. So there you are, and you're working with the government of the Netherlands and the European Union, and there's different green projects, and they pull the plug on one of them. And so you're at a crossroads to decide, well, will I stay in my lane in terms of my legacy, or will I have to rebuild? Will you speak into that moment in your life for a moment, just to,
yes.
What was your decision-making process, or what was going through your head? Because sometimes our paths are easy, and other times we're we're challenged beyond our comfort zone.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I was working for the government, and at a certain moment, the government did a reorganization. And I had quite a portfolio of projects. And they dropped the complete portfolio of projects and even the signed agreements with other regions in Europe. Choof, like that.
Okay.
And I said, well, I don't agree with that.
So there's probably a decision at the top.
And other regions of Europe sent letters that they didn't want me to go, but I said, I have had enough. So my wife was at that moment very ill. And I told the government, listen, this is not going anywhere. I want you to retire me. And yeah, I want to do that in a good energy and a good companionship. But if you make it difficult, then I'm going to make it difficult also. So they retired me within 48 hours, and I was very, very happy, which gave me the possibility to go further with my own company, which I already had 5 years, and doing the things that I really wanted to do for my heart.
And what an interesting crossroads that is, because obviously when life is convenient, it is easy, but those are what I call the difficult conversations. Yes.
Yes. Yes,
so there
it's
you are.
difficult.
Yes. It's at one point in your life, you had 5 houses, right, around the world. And then you had to decide, in your conscience, is it business as usual, or do you recreate something that is more true to your values and in alignment with your integrity? Would you, does that sum it up, or?
Whoa, well, that's a nice question. What shall I say? It is not an easy moment in your life, because on the one hand, you grow to that moment that is difficult. On the other hand, you expect the best. And it is an inner conflict what you're going in at that moment. And that inner conflict you can only solve by not making it a trauma, but going into yourself and listen to your, what I then call higher self.
Okay.
Listen to your inner child and see how you can bring that forward in the next part of your life. And that's what I did.
And there's a very strong decision.
Yeah, people say that, yeah.
Yes. And I know that you're kind of touching upon the surface in the kind of the gauntlet one goes through when they have to decide, what they're going to choose maybe in the next phase of their life, not knowing sometimes the next 5 steps ahead of them or the next 10 steps, and having to trust on, themselves more than usual, or also taking out what I call a leap of faith and trusting the universe.
Yeah, right. Now, the point is that indeed I stepped out of my comfort zone at that moment, but I did it in a way that a part of that comfort zone kept with me, because I was retired. So I got a retirement fund. Right?
Yes, made it easier.
Yeah, and that's the point. That made it very, very simple to do it and to take the next steps. I felt supported by that.
Okay.
And feeling supported is very, very important for people, especially after a very difficult few years like we are facing now. Many people are suffering,
Right.
and many people don't know the path to go. And actually, that is what we try to make clear for them by doing the work in the United People Foundation.
Okay, good. One of the conversations we also had before today, at this moment, was the concern we had around young people in the next generation and the rising suicide numbers, and the concern. Yes. Would you like to speak into that for a moment?
It is something that we don't like. Nobody likes to see a child committing suicide or want to feel it. It's an extremely sensitive, a very emotional moment. Hearing that there are many young people taking this difficult decision,
because they feel
innerly makes me cry.
Yes, because they feel like they have little to nothing to look forward to.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. They see their education vaporize. They see their plans for the future vaporize, and that means actually that we have to help them. We have to step forward and to help them, but also their parents, to find that path to go. And actually, we already expected these kind of things that are happening now, not the COVID thing, etc. But we expected an enormous crisis at a certain moment. We went through periods of many crises, so you can see that something is coming. So in 2003, we set up a group of people who were thinking out of the box about the future. And at that moment, that was in 2006, I think, Ronald Bernard, the international whistleblower about on the financial system and more, and on the community, stepped forward in that meeting. There were some 70, 80 people, all entrepreneurs, creative, innovative, and all seeing the difficulties of the community in general. He stepped forward and he told about his idea, his feeling, a little bit about his experience, because it was very recent then. And after that meeting, we had another meeting, and then he asked me to help him write the business plan. And that ended with a whole group of people to make the business plan of what we call the B of Joy, which is actually a financial system independent from the nowadays system, not working with fractional banking and not working with interest and working with its own currency, which is separate, independent, I said, separate from the other currencies.
And it's interesting today because we don't know necessarily with the future if cryptocurrencies will be the influence, if the people will have a peer-to-peer network with their cell phones. We just don't know. But one thing we do know is there are people who have been affected by the pandemic. I know some people call it the pandemonium because it feels like it's this crazy that never ends. And so here you are, and you've been, I don't want to say at the top of the world, but in some ways you had access to much knowledge and a huge network, and you got to a point in your life where you wanted to give back in order to see the suffering stop. And also, you've got such a big heart that at one point you also did philanthropic work in Malta. And what I mean by that is you helped with domestic violence. Do you want to just touch on that briefly?
Well, yes, briefly, because it's a completely different subject. But yes, I was shocked to to see so many aggression and domestic violence in the country where I lived, Malta. And with some people, we helped people who were experiencing that, or who were even in a situation that they ended up in a mental hospital.
So, right. So it's where I'm pointing the flashlight is that it's tragic, and you have the courage to step in and to offer your assistance when many people could just pull what I call the hoodie over their head and keep walking and not care and say, oh, thank God it's not me, compared to extending a hand.
Thank you for that, but I don't feel like that. I felt it like it was just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I think we've also had this conversation before, that nobody wants wars. And one of the consequences of war, from many different consequences in the side effects, is that generations can be traumatized. And so when I think about the conversations that I have with people about defining, developing, executing their legacies, one of the things that holds them back is if there is a level of trauma within them or within their family, not knowing how to undo that, and then being able to move forward, because if they don't unpack it, they can't move forward. And so if I'm looking at it from a macro perspective, or the 5,000-foot view, or the eagle's view, it is something that is always in the background. People don't know how to talk about. And I just wanted to highlight for a moment that you were able to walk into situations that are messy, and life is messy. And also, just because somebody has money, it doesn't mean that they have a guarantee that their life is going to be easier. Like one of the things we've also talked about, and I think the words you said to me was, money is wonderful, but there's also many nasty things that can come with money that blindside people. They think it's the grass will be greener on the other side, but it can open up new problems and new obstacles that we might not get the training for in a typical school setting, or in a case study or a book. It's kind of the school of hard knocks when one is out there in real time.
Well, you started to say nobody wants wars. It's indeed, it's a tragedy for many people.
All around the world.
All around the world, absolutely. Later on in my life, I realized that both my parents had a war trauma. And I discovered that late in my life, because as a child, you don't even think about that. And this was war trauma because my father fought the Nazis in Germany itself, and came back as a invalid. So he was disabled when he came back. That and more brought my mother to a difficult way for herself of accepting reality. And my father, was very difficult for him to work with that. And later on, I understood he saw it also. But, you know, after World War II, war trauma was not something to be treated. Now, people are far more aware of that. So, yes, wars are traumatic. What we do in the United People Foundation is we have our own declaration of peace, which goes beyond the declaration of peace that exists. And we have our own declaration of human rights. We have our 12 points of change, and we have the URA platform. Those 4 points are serving the people to build their own future, and we will help them. That is what we do. So actually what we did is we were thinking about how economy started in the oldest tribes, in the oldest indigenous peoples. And when you see into that, you see that barter, so exchange of service and trade, is very important and was very important and actually is still very important, but hardly acknowledged as a basis. We modernized the barter, and we combined it with our own currency, the URA, which is based upon labor and hours. Hours of labor is the value of our currency, not gold. We don't need gold. So gold is actually also labor.
Sure. So you've taken your experiences and your knowledge thus far, and if I would say in defining your legacy, it shows up for you in your life as this declaration of peace and your collaboration with others to create a platform in order to give other people access, education, a chance that might not have access otherwise.
To make very clear, it's not I that am doing that.
You're with a group.
I'm very, very happy that I'm involved in this. Ronald Bernard brought me in this, and with a group of people all thinking the same and all fully equal. That's very important. We are fully equal. We made this happen based upon the love that we feel in our hearts for the people. And people can put it in a little cupboard like, oh, you're an ideologist, etc. Okay, if you feel that, it's fine. We only want to offer the people hope and trust based upon love and growing to wisdom.
Okay, wonderful. I just wanted to highlight for a moment that you are defining your own legacy in being able to put it into words. And it is also a shared legacy, which is very interesting because you get to have others to go with you on your journey compared to some people feeling like an island or feeling alone in finding their way forward. It takes incredible, I want to say, determination to not just hide in one's life or allow their willpower to be destroyed by external circumstances, you know, regarding whatever level their net worth is, and to move forward in putting their stake in the ground and saying, these are the values that I stand for. And this is what I want to build and create.
Right, but that is what our whole team actually says. You're wording it very well. Our whole team has that feeling. We carry out that feeling, and actually in every meeting that we have, we we really have fun because we are working on something very positive for the people, for the world.
Okay.
And no matter where they are, everything is worked out local. What we
Okay.
do is we set up support groups, we call that ambassador groups, in
Okay.
the countries who are working from the culture to have the URA platform working for them, for their region, for their country, whatever. So we are helping the people to set it up and to widen the ink spot.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. So, how would you say that you get to, because you're also a coach, you're a fellow coach, how do you think that you're able to reach others and inspire them? And I realize I'm putting you on the spot
um, well,
because this
actually,
is
we all are doing that by either presentations, by our newsletters, by our flyers also, and we are spreading that word, actually, that possibility and the potential. Um, Actually, over social media and on our own websites.
okay.
But at the moment, it is like this, that many people are asking us also, how do we do that? How can we do that? How can we use it? And how can we form our future? Um, Based upon that, there are many people also as a kind of reserve, even, and that was completely unexpected, um, buying URAs for the future, so that since the URA is not involved in inflation, so that they have a kind of backup if something like the inflation is coming. Like at this moment, many economists are saying, many newspapers are writing about that, the interviews on the television, everybody is making worries about that inflation. So the funny thing is that it has a positive influence,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
And I wrote recently an article that's called "Thank You, COVID." And that sounds very strange
Right.
because my heart goes out to the people who are suffering. But thank you, COVID, is also because COVID made a change happen. It made a change happen in the feeling of people. It made a change in the available social responsibility in the people. Social responsibility in the people grew. They suddenly helped older people who could not go out for shopping with delivering very simple things.
And people coming
And this is
together.
exactly what we are doing with the URA platform.
Okay.
So what happens in the whole COVID period in the people themselves, the growth of social responsibility, helping each other, is actually what we find in our URA platform. And it's
Okay.
not something to buy or to sell or whatever. No, it comes from the heart.
And I do realize people have been waking up, especially in the last few years, and asking more from companies, even like within the the niche of luxury brands. They want more sustainability. They want more transparency. They want that they don't want it just to be business as usual regarding where the products come from, whether it's Swiss watches or skincare. Or right before we came on, we were talking about the rainforests and the preservation of resources on this planet right now to protect the future generations, compared to just not being ideal stewards right now and thinking there won't be an effect in the future. Yes.
That's
and,
true.
and I
I,
just wanted to say also that I wanted to acknowledge that you're able to transform kind of the experiences that you've had, and as well as I might use the word pain, into giving to others, so that that energy does not stay destructive, because it can be very easy for people to check out or to mimic destructive behavior that they see today, because people feel frustrated or they feel in a world of scarcity. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because if trauma can roll downhill, like especially within families or even family businesses, when does somebody decide consciously that they would like to break the pattern and create something different and better, so that it's almost like an artistic creation, that is both healing to one's own soul, but then also it gives in service to others. Yes.
Yes, that's true. And then when you do that, um, looking back in my life, we're talking about legacy, right?
Yes.
Looking back in my life, I feel very grateful what I have learned, both positive and negative. So I can bring that message, and I'm not the only one. Each of us in the whole team of the United People Foundation does exactly that. Each of us. And also, I have to say this, and that is different from anything in the let me say it, old community. When you see how the structures are in the old community, it's a pyramid form. And the pyramid is at the top, there is one guy or woman, and there at the bottom, a lot of people.
Okay.
What we did, we turned the pyramid on its head, and we took a hammer and we slammed it flat.
Okay.
Then we drew concentric circles. In every circle is a certain amount of people. Everybody in every circle can reach the core, can reach the center. No objections, no obstructions. Everything is there, and we will help each other.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's a wonderful business structure because it's taking much of the what I can call the, it's a power structure, but it also removes any potential abuses of power because when people can be equal, their conversations are going to be different.
Yes,
And I
and
and I
they start understanding each other. They start listening to each other.
because they're
They start
equal
seeing the fun moments. Yeah,
compared to
exactly.
yes. And it's interesting also the number of companies right now that are slowly picking up on that because it just creates healthier work environments.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true.
Good, good. So how would you describe the dream or the vision that you have for your personal legacy? And I realize that you're sharing your legacy with a group of people, but what would that vision be if you could describe its ideal 5 or 10 years from now or 100 years from now?
Let's start with the short period, 5 years.
Okay.
I feel that since there is a lot of positive development going on, I feel that within 5 years, I would say at least, I'm just guessing, 20% more people worldwide
Okay.
will see the value of social contacts, talking with each other, listening to each other, understanding, and also with that, hugging each other. I remember that once I did something very, very peculiar. I made a board and I hang that here. And on that board was 3 hugs.
Okay.
And we went with a few friends, always these boards, in the area of a city on a Saturday. 3 hugs.
Free
And people
hugs.
were looking at it.
Oh, yes,
What
yes.
is that?
Okay. Right.
But on the other hand, more and more people came. I want a hug. Okay, come here. And
And it,
that is actually what I expect more in 20 years or in the
okay.
5 years, the 20%. I think in 100 years, I wish I'm true, I'm right. I'm
Okay.
telling the truth about this. I wish that in 100 years, the economy changed to a cooperative economy and not pure competitive corruption and greed. No, we are growing beyond that. And actually, helps us to listen to each other, helps us to love each other, to understand each other, to have peace, and to enjoy our human rights. I see
Because,
that.
okay, good, good. That's a wonderful vision. And I think it's a good picture to hold in your mind compared to the last 100 years, the last 200 years, in what wars have done to this planet, what wars and trauma have done to families, in um, what I would say, trauma can halt the human development of
Yes.
not just an individual, but of a family, of a community, of a country. And I think the human race is in some ways very innovative, but I think in other ways it also needs to grow up.
Yep.
But one of the side effects of trauma is what I call shell shock. And if they stay frozen, then it doesn't matter how physically old somebody can be if their mind was wounded at one time and doesn't know how to resolve that. So I think it's a beautiful vision that you're holding. And I think especially as you mentioned before, young people need to have hope right now, especially that age bracket between
Yes.
10 and 20. That teenage group that craves social connection. If you're holding up that sign that says free hugs, they would especially love a hug. Love is the highest frequency, it is the highest vibration, and to overcome the fear, I think that can come with a pandemic on multiple levels.
The biggest problem is actually, in my eyes, but that's my personal opinion, that fear is the most negative influence on us all, not any illness
Right.
or a pandemic or whatever. No, fear.
Right.
We have to acknowledge that. We can use and we can live. We can use fear to make love.
And transform it like in alchemy. Yes.
Transform that. Because where there is fear in our hearts, there cannot be love.
Mm-hmm.
Then if there's no love in the hearts, there cannot be trust.
Yes.
So
Yes.
love and trust grow to wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need that fear. We can do without it.
Right. I think one of the greatest lessons from coaching, and please share your thoughts in response to this. I think one of the greatest lessons in coaching is being able to self-manage in boundaries, to say, like, if we walk into a room and everybody is afraid, we can still be at choice and not be afraid, in managing our emotions and knowing how to, again, recognize our internal environment, to not just get infected by the fear.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
That's correct. My thought about that is that when we grow up, we are often not aware, and later we become aware, that during growing up we have our inner child. That inner child is our truth. That inner child is without fear. It exists. It enjoys life. It has fun
Mm-hmm.
about everything.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most beautiful part of life. We all can go back to that most beautiful part. We don't need to have a fear of somebody who's poaching animals. It's the other way around. So what we could do is to turn around our thinking and think out of the box. That is the best tip I can give people. Love, trust, and wisdom. And next to that, think out of the box.
Mm-hmm. Compared to staying within the box and then it just becomes stagnant, like insanity. Yep. Yes. Yeah. The loop around the airport. Correct. Yes. And I think what you just said also, it's really important to rise higher to wisdom and to other emotional resources that are available, because then fear limits our growth, and fear can show up in an unwillingness to learn, or an unwillingness to get to know someone, or as in, like, if I talk to that person, will I be judged? What if we just, like you say, come together, collaborate, unite, and get to know one another? Because I'm still shocked by the statistics that show that humanity has much more in common than they do different. And yet, oftentimes they can fight over things like power and control. And it can, bring out like they say, all arguments have to do with power. And I think that there's an element of that is accurate. But what if we could just rise higher into love and not worry about who's more powerful? Who's got the bigger fire truck on the playground, or whatever the thing is. Yes. Okay. So,
that's so right.
So before we share the video that you would like to have played, I'd like to ask, what has inspired you, or who has coached you if there has been anyone that has coached you on your journey.
Yeah, that's a good one, Angelina. My big coach was my father. He showed me after some years that the German people are also loving people. The second big coach was my uncle. I, as a child, was a bit naughty and a bit curious. My uncle said to my mother, hey, let me teach that guy to be curious and mix things without exploding things. So I was lucky enough to be taught in his laboratory and that is crucial.
In the
As a young
Netherlands.
child, I was taught to think out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about mixing and have a bit of a flame drill under that and gassing. No, it was not. No, think out what's going to happen. Now we're going to the surrounding area. So that is my second coach.
Okay.
And my third coach was sports. Because sports actually taught me to listen to my own body and to my own body-spirit balance. And that's still going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. I hope that you were able to tell both your father as well as your uncle while they were here, their influence on you. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's a delightful story. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other life lessons before I move on to the next question?
No, let me go to the next question, please.
Okay. All right. So as you're unpacking some difficult subjects with your associates in the United People's Foundation, and obviously the story that Ronald Bernard has shared online, what is it that you would say can bring you inner peace during those moments when you're face to face with what I call the heavy stuff?
Believing in the outcome.
Okay. Okay.
Believing in the result.
Okay.
And seeing that at a certain moment, people start to see that result and how much it can serve them.
In the hope.
Hope, love,
okay.
Trust, and wisdom.
Okay. 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 Very good. Very good. Okay. So, and as a coach, is there anything in particular that you have found to be helpful in reaching people, whether the people are new to you or they have a hard shell?
Let me answer this question with an example. I'm exercising every day. Every day I make a speed hike. And during my speed hike, I meet people. When I started in Malta, I smiled to the people and I greeted them. I got the look when, that's creepy.
Oh,
the guy
stranger.
is greeting me.
Right, stranger danger. Yes, yes.
After a year, I was greeted back. After 1.5 years, people started greeting me with a smile.
Good. Okay.
And that is what I mean. Smile to people. That is really the best way to do it. And do it from your heart.
Right.
Do it from your heart. Because that is the energy that you give to people. And that is the love, trust, and wisdom that you give them. The most beautiful thing is that you always are getting back. You don't even have to ask. I'm not asking for anything.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Okay. That is lovely. And I think it is also kind.
Yes.
Right. Because you're setting an example. If you could have a microphone right now or like a megaphone and say a message to that age group of individuals between 10 and 20 right now that are struggling, knowing that they might be in a dark place, what would you want to say to them, knowing that they're in that age bracket where they can be imprinted, for the rest of their life, if they're not willing to open their awareness and realize that there is more available to them in this world?
Yes. To discover that, you have to open your heart, you open yourself for energies that you normally not see or smell. But open yourself, listen, and zoom out. Zooming out makes it possible to find the spot where you want to zoom in. Zooming out makes it possible when you have zoomed in to zoom out again. That makes it possible to give yourself the opportunity for an inside out look and an outside in look, a view on what is really happening.
Mhm.
Based upon that view on what is really happening, that is the basis for your future.
Thank you. I think that's an important message to tell to them. And also, I think it's a good practice that they can implement no matter where they are located, so that they know that there's more and this is just a phase.
And Angelina, one thing, the beauty is then that they're going to be the teachers of their parents.
Right, right. Which is interesting right now, because if I think about, for instance, with family businesses, the next gen that is stepping in, they have to be able to teach because the landscape is changing so fast, and they can't necessarily do things how things were done a decade ago, a century ago, a generation ago. And that's not to say that everything is scrapped. You take the best and you move forward, but also it's trusting what you had referred to a moment ago as the inner child within them and the messages that can come forward. And I think a part of what happens when somebody defines, develops and executes their legacy is that they can reclaim as well as reconnect with their inner child.
Yes, that is true. And it's even crucial, because connecting with your inner child makes it possible to take that inner child by hand, reach out your hand, grab the hand, and lead that inner child to the path you want to show it. But it is also the other way around, because it's always an interaction. The inner child also leads you to that point that can be the cross point of roads and shows you the road to go.
Mm-hmm. Good, very good. I think in connection to that, I wanted to say something about willpower. I think that when somebody can, what you talked about, zoom in and zoom out, it can protect their willpower compared to when we go out into the world and everybody can see it. It's not as if some people are immune to not seeing it. It's what I call the gray faces, or as if somebody has taken their cupcake away in life. And maybe I see it when I'm standing in line at the post office, or I'm running errands. Some people, this has been a time, this past year that new doors have opened, and that's wonderful. I applaud them and I'm happy for them. For other people, it's as if somebody has taken away, their access to go to school and to see their friends and their playmates. Or it is a time when, again, it's really affecting their willpower. And I think that willpower is the thing that keeps us dreaming. Willpower is the thing that connects us to believing that our personal core values matter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The willpower is especially supported also by sports, but also by meditation. If you want to go into yourself, also to reach your inner child, you can meditate very easily. It's not difficult. You can do it in yoga. You can do it in every possibility that is there. There are many possibilities. There are many ways of meditation. But always within the meditation, take a distance of what is happening around you. Take a distance from the so-called reality that is brought by, I don't know who, maybe your parents, maybe the media, maybe the teacher, whatever, and find your inner self during your meditation. It is willpower that also brings dedication.
Mm-hmm.
Willpower and dedication are the two pillars on the path to go when you're facing your future. There are always moments that are obstructing, working negatively or whatever. Acknowledge them. Put them in a cupboard, close the door, and go on. But learn from the elements in that negative energy and transform that to positive energy for yourself, so that you can go somewhere, that you have the courage to speak out to a group of people. I remember once I was 25, and I was in the board of the union in the Netherlands, and I had to speak for some 250 people at a certain moment. I had the water in my hands, and the water was streaming down my body. I was, oh God, what's going to happen here? Until I was standing there, seeing all those people, and I had one thought. And the thought was, they don't know what I am going to say. And that helped me dry my hands and speak up. What I can do, everybody can do.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. Absolutely. And I think the leadership at any age can come forward compared to when we give our power away. Because it's one thing to collaborate, but it's another to give our power away and wait on maybe politicians that might not, pull through for us, or giving our power away to any other individual compared to developing ourselves and developing our skills and developing our capabilities, and knowing that it is in all of us, not just in some of us.
Correct. Fully
Okay.
correct.
All right. And on that note, let me see if I can figure out how to play this video. Okay. All right. So, and is there any, while I figure this out real quick, is there anything that you would like to share regarding why this video is important?
I can tell you this. We spent a lot of research to come where we are now.
Okay.
So the United People Foundation set up the URA platform to help the people define their own future. And especially after this COVID period, it is very important that you see, literally, that we made it operational for 200 plus countries. So it is rolling out worldwide.
Okay.
And it is there to help you. And we are there to help you use it. That is what I want to say. So just listen to it, find us, and connect the secretariat, connect with us about how to use it, etc. It is all on the website, and we are not there to sell anything. I'm not earning 1 cent with this. I'm a volunteer, and I'm doing it from my heart. And so are we all. We are all volunteers doing it from our heart. That is what I want to say.
Okay.
Use it, please, for you, not for us.
And this matters to you because it means that more people can get access to what they need compared to finding themselves in a world of scarcity.
Correct. There's
Okay.
a world of abundance waiting for us all if we are working together and we are cooperating, we are listening to each other, then we understand each other. Love, trust, and wisdom.
Okay. Okay. And on that note, I will press play. Okay, wonderful. And let me just make sure that I pause that. Okay, so it won't just automatically play to the next video. Okay, so
Good.
this is your legacy. This is a part of your legacy. Yes,
Part of our legacy.
part of our legacy. Okay, and just for somebody who's watching who might not know, who would be your ideal, I don't want to use the word customer because you said no money per se changes hands. So who would be your ideal associate? Who would be your ideal partner?
Everybody.
Okay.
We are not kicking out anybody.
Okay.
What we did is in the United People Foundation, we formed a young division. So those are the young pioneers stepping forward with this idea to fill in and to define the path to their future.
Okay.
With the support groups that we are setting up based upon the benchmark of the support group in England, we are attracting a lot more people, also working together with other organizations or even other cooperative financial organizations, like the very old one in Switzerland is started in 18 something.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One more time. What in Switzerland?
The very old one that is existing, who is doing this for the small and medium-sized enterprises in Switzerland.
Okay.
We are doing that also for the small and medium-sized enterprises and for the personal initiatives of people. There are many examples all over the world, small examples, and we need to work together. That is really the best way to do it.
Absolutely.
Together we are strong.
And I think it ends pain. It ends unnecessary pain.
Yeah.
And when I've talked with different family businesses around the globe, one thing that's interesting is they have been especially impacted by the pandemic this past year, and they have to pivot very quickly, be resourceful, not just externally, but also internally, to not go crazy inside, and to figure out how do I trade, how do I barter, who do I network with, what else is out there, and also in terms of the internet, how do I find other people who are willing and interested in helping me, helping us, and that it just doesn't stay into what I call when somebody feels hopeless and then they collapse in on themselves. When somebody can know that they have choices and options, it changes their reality, it changes their mood, it changes their destiny. And
that's great.
Just to know that there are people that want good for the future generations.
And the funny thing is also that during the first period of COVID, people well, not just helping with delivery, groceries, etc. It happened also a lot, actually, and it's beautiful to see that small and medium-sized enterprises suddenly, in just one day, in a very short moment, all the clients disappeared. All their orders dried up. There was no money anymore, until some of those small and medium-sized enterprises joined forces and started helping each other by bringing their products to the people, offering them online, um, getting the ingredients in the right way, because that also stopped.
Mhm.
And those things are exactly the basis of our URA platform. It's exactly the people, we all have it in us.
Mhm.
So let's bring this out.
Okay.
And especially the young people are stepping forward doing that.
I think they're some of the loudest voices in the room.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes. Final question. What values do you believe you get to honor, the personal values of yours, by executing this platform? Do you get to, for instance, honor fairness, justice? How might you describe the personal values that you get to honor?
In the platform, you mean?
Sure,
As a
personal.
result of the platform?
Sure. Yes, by developing and executing your life legacy right now, what personal values do you get to honor?
The most important value is opening your heart.
Okay, love.
That is a condition, but it's not a condition, not really. Opening your heart means listening to yourself, listening to others. Also, loving yourselves. Those are all values that are very easily ignored and very easily put aside, or said, that's a soft thing. Talking about love. Why? Love brought me in this world, all of us. So why should I say it's a soft thing? It's one of the strongest things there is. So those are the values. And what I always say is love, trust, and wisdom. Wisdom is the end result, but love and trust are so much connected.
Mm-hmm.
Trust yourself, love others, trust others, listen to them, understand them, and respect them.
Wonderful. Well, Foppe, thank you so much for this collaboration this morning. And I appreciate the stories that you've shared from the heart. And I know that it has been a very interesting and challenging personal journey that has had you arrive to this moment in time to be able to give your energy to this project that you're working on, that you hope will not just impact the life that you're living in this lifespan, but also many generations to come, in the seeds that you're planting around the world with your relationships and your network. And I just am delighted that you have had the opportunity this morning to share some of who you are with anyone that will listen to this video.
Thank you so much, Angelina, for this opportunity. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.